I want to ask you about this new world we're living in that's gone mad in many respects when it comes to toxic masculinity that's actually not toxic at all.
We have to understand that today someone's egging you against someone you love.
We're going to get to a little bit of the gender stuff. I want to ask you about marriage. I want to ask you about this new world we're living in that's gone mad in many respects when it comes to toxic masculinity that's actually not toxic at all in most cases.
15 years ago, I was at a meeting in Malibu, and the campaign manager for Bush was there and the campaign manager for Clinton, and they debated for 1 hour. It was a room, only 40 of us. Dennis Prager was, and a few of us were in the room. Incredible experience seeing these two guys debate. And then Prager got up and he had a whole different, every week it was somebody else. One day Prager got up and he said something very interesting. He says, for whatever reason, the left is trying to make everyone equal today. Animals and humans equal. Humans and God equal. Women and men equal. Everything was, and then they're trying to pin parents against kids, husbands against wives, men against women, church against attendees. Everything is pin. Sometimes, you know, when divorces happen, like my mom and dad, they got a divorce, right? And as a kid, I was home and I would see my mom would have some friends that would come over and they would start saying, so what is Gabriel doing? Oh, he doesn't do that? He doesn't do that? You gotta be kidding me. He didn't do that for you. He should do this. Here's what every man should do. And I'm sitting over there playing with my toys and I'm hearing one of my aunties saying this to my mom. And then I'm not saying anything because I'm 7 years old, but I understand they're saying this to each other, right? We have to understand that today someone's egging you against someone you love. One of the girls, the next guy says, so raise your hand, what kind of a breakthrough did you have last night? First person says this, second person says this. One wife gets up, I've not been supportive of my husband, I'm gonna build a business together with him. Next guy gets up. And one girl over here, late 30s, early 40s, very attractive, well put together, you can tell she takes care of herself, right? Persian girl sitting next to her sister. She gets up and she says, Patrick, this is very hard for me to say this. And let me tell you why it's very hard. I said, what's that? She says, ever since in high school, I wanted to prove to men that I can beat them. So when I graduated high school and college, I opened up my salon. We do very well. I've made millions of dollars. My people and my work that work at the salon, they do very well for themselves. I drive a nice car, I have a nice house, I have money, I have millions. I don't worry about any of that stuff. You know what decision I made last night? I said, what's that? She says, I want a husband. I no longer want to compete with men. I need them. This is why sometimes, Jed, in life, you have to be very careful whose philosophy you buy into, because when you're in a web and you don't know you're in the web and you're caught up in this web, you don't lose a year. You don't lose 5 years. You can be bought into the wrong philosophy and lose 30 years of your life. I just knew my mother and my dad would argue all the time, and my mom was a communist. Her family was, and he was an imperialist. So I come home and I say, hey, Dad, Mom, just out of curiosity, are we Democrats or Republicans? And she says, we're Democrats. I said, okay, cool. I said, why are we Democrats? She says, because Democrats are for the poor and Republicans are for the rich. And I said, you know what? I want to be a Republican when I grow up. We can have respect for anybody, but nobody looks at somebody like that saying, oh my God, you're such an impactful person to society. We've got 3 different types of citizens in any society. One is the lowest level, which is bad citizen. A bad citizen, we all know what they do. They don't pay their bills. They don't take care of their family. They don't take care of their kids. They don't do their stuff. So that's a bad citizen. You can define them very easily. Then you have the good citizen. Good citizen has a strong character and they have some kind of a hard skill. And last but not least is, you know, in life, you're going to have many events that is going to cause a paradigm shift. You know, one is getting married. One is having kids. First time I cried having a kid was with my Senna, because I didn't cry with Tico and Dylan. I was just so happy when I had 2 boys. But with Senna, I stood over Jen, I had tears. I'm like, wow, I'm excited about having a girl.
One of the criticisms of the red pill movement is some people will say, oh, they're too focused on money. And it's interesting. I think when people think of money, many think of fancy things, cars and your house. For me, as a kid who didn't grow up with money, to me, money meant freedom. Money meant the ability to pick up your family and move somewhere else if you need to. Money meant if your businesses was locked down in New York during the pandemic, some people were able to move to Florida and start up a new business. Others got buried, unfortunately. So for me, I feel that the message is earn money so that you can be self-sufficient, so you are not dependent on the system and you have that mobility. But I'm curious for someone like you, because you talked about being an earner. You obviously have accumulated, a lot of wealth, been very, very successful. If one of your sons came to you, honestly, and said, Dad, you know what, I want to be a teacher. I want to be a preschool teacher, or I want to be a third grade teacher, and I want to be the soccer coach, and that's what makes me really happy. Would there be any part of you that would be concerned about that? Does that come to mind for someone who's achieved such enormous financial stability and success like yourself?
6 months ago, 5 months ago, I come home and my oldest son comes in and he says, Jennifer's like, hey babe, talk to Patrick. Everybody today was Googling Patrick Bet-David and they saw your stuff and Valuetainment came up and all this stuff. I'm like, okay, oh, awesome. Hey Tico, so tell me about your day. I don't want to talk about it. You don't want to talk about it? Because we have the same name. So I don't want to talk about it. So you don't want to talk about it? No, I don't want to talk about it, Dad. And he's not disrespectful. He just doesn't want to talk about it. Like, he never talks to me like that before. So it's bedtime. He's going upstairs. I said, I got to go talk to Tico. So I go upstairs and say, Tico, hey, what happened today? Why were you saying you didn't want to talk about it? I said, I just don't want to talk about it, Dad. And he's covering his face with a blanket. He never does that. This guy's very uncomfortable with me. So I said, can I ask you a question? He said, yes. I said, are you worried because we have the same name and you have to live up to what your daddy's done? Is that kind of your concern because everyone's Googling my picture comes up? He says, I am. So your concern isn't the fact that you don't want the pressure of having my name. Your concern is what? You think I want you to be me? I do. So you think I want you to run an insurance company one day and be daddy? Yes. So do you want to be? No. So you don't have to be.